You always MC the news.
Yeah, I like doing it. Get my Walter Cronkite on. Little kind of
Another episode of Cantina Chronicles. Tonight we are walking the path from metal to meat.
We're
feeding the hunger.
Wait,
that is
what?
the Scourge.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Dark Droids. But before that, we got the news.
Got a little bit of news this week. Pretty excited.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, they trickle out some stories here and there. We got the first news is not great, but not really surprising. Outlaws is going to arrive late 2024. It was just like a little like addendum that was announced. Any surprise there for you guys?
No, the surprise is they're still claiming 2024. This is their slow way of pushing this thing to summer 2025. I'm telling you, it's. I think personally with the bad press surrounding grinding in video games going on right now is that they are, which is a good thing, and with all of the labor action that's been happening rightfully around everything else, is that I have a feeling they know what's coming and they're like, no, we're going to need a little extra time on this, and by extra time I think they're going to need. I don't know. I don't want to be a pessimist, but my guess is Christmas 2025.
Yeah.
2025.
Yep, that's my guess.
So you're guessing 2 years. You're like late next year. Okay.
Late next year. So that's my
taking the over. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Grant?
If it's an open world game and there's lots of quest lines, like I could imagine certain things breaking if it's not done correctly in terms of like, traversal and going from planet to planet and all these open worlds and doing certain things in certain orders. So I feel like in a certain order. So I feel like that is like just a complicated sort of, coding process. It's gonna take a while for that game to really, be polished.
I don't want an experience like I had with Skyrim, where I nearly 100% of it, except for a glitch. And because of that glitch, I had to wait a year and a half for a patch to come out that I could then 100% it. And then I forgot that happened. And finally I went back 4 years later and did the thing that took 30 freaking seconds and 100% of it. Anyway, I'm still bitter, so I don't want to be bitter about Star Wars.
I think that's fair. I think, I think
Skyrim, the greatest game ever made, but yeah, of
course. Right. But I think it's better. Like, wouldn't you have rather the game just came out a year later and you could just play the game? I don't think anyone's complaining about that. I think Star Wars has done that. There was a couple of glitches in Survivor, but I mean, I've not significant. I've played many other games that have much worse, glitches. Obviously, Battlefront 2 was, a dumpster fire. That was more a philosophical glitch, but like even Battlefront 1 was loaded with glitches. It's just like I'd much rather them just make it, first quality game.
Yeah, but even if it's an open world as robust as like Grand Theft Auto, or Rockstar games for that matter, like Red Dead. I mean, like that's a lot of scripting. That's a lot of things populating the world, and that's. To me, that's like they should take as long as they need to sort of make sure that's.
But this is Ubisoft, right? And I mean, I don't really remember like Assassin's Creed. I don't remember any like Assassin's Creed games that actually glitched that hard.
No,
like they're pretty clean.
They're very
maker.
Yeah. As somebody who's played like every iteration of Assassin's Creed, still could tell you zero about the lore, even though I've sat through 80 plus hours
something Apple of Eden, something.
Apple. I think I killed the Pope. I don't know. But what I'll say is I think the reason why that works so well is that they slow iterations, right? Like every game added like one new element and removed one other element. So it wasn't like a brand new game. They're working on the same engine. So I think part of what they're probably experiencing is somewhat of a new design. But that brought up a question is like, so we know it's Ubisoft, and on a scale of open world from because I put the bottom scale end of an open world game as an Assassin's Creed. I don't mean that in terms of bad, but like Assassin's Creed's technically open world, but it is very focused on what you can do. There's usually like 5 different types of tasks you can do, right? And like usually a main storyline.
Yeah.
And the other end is like Red Dead Redemption 2, where you could literally play that game for the rest of your life and never play another video game. And like you have to figure out how to control your horse. Like that game is like to a lot of people would argue to a fault. I say a masterpiece, but I understand.
Yeah.
On that scale, where do you think Outlaws is going to fall?
Oh, that's a great question.
I would say probably about 40%, closer towards Assassin's Creed. I think it's going to have more things. Just the fact that you can fly to outer space and then jump to hyperspace, I think will be, quite a step up from Assassin's Creed. But I don't know. Maybe it's just as easy to perform. I think it's just going to be the novelty of playing a Star Wars and being in the galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think,
Right.
Grant?
I think all of the level of interactables that you get in Assassin's Creed, but I think it will have the scope of Red Dead. I think you'll really feel like you can walk a great distance in this game.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a major goal of AAA open world games nowadays. It's to make the world feel huge. Like each world should just feel vast, and you should be able to explore so many different regions and cultures and villages, and meet different smugglers and
it's
corporate people and spies.
It sounds really complicated how you can sort of it's kind of a choose your own adventure. Each gameplay will be different depending on what your allegiances are, and everyone will be talking about that online. And
I still want to call it, and I want to be clear to anything that's listening, this is not a monkey's paw statement.
Oh God.
But I honestly feel like this might be the last video game I ever play.
It's definitely one of those all-timers.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like the end game, sort of like app killer for open world, the open world experience. I do love sort of fantasy and Elder Scrolls, and I'm really looking forward to Bethesda's next Elder Scrolls game, rather than
So
I just got Spider-Man 2, and I'm like, I'm excited to play this game, and I'm like, or I could just play Red Dead Redemption 2 more. I'm like, do I want to just do that forever and just do maybe I'll just do that forever, like just find my thing and
be
do
a
it
cowboy.
forever.
Bye.
Forever.
Yeah.
That's Sorry, great. You're trying to change us to the next topic, I'm guessing.
No, not at all. I wanted to ask a question. So this is published by Ubisoft, but it's by Massive Entertainment. I'm not familiar with Massive, but is that a subdivision or is that just a smaller gaming company?
Vaguely familiar.
I think it's the multiplayer focused sort of gaming company therein.
Okay, so it's like a sub part of Ubisoft. It's not like a different. Okay.
And we haven't heard any rumors of anything of any rumors about multiplayer aspects, have we, in this game? Not like Red Dead 2, because
not yet.
Oh, maybe then it's just an open world sort of.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask that question before.
Scope, sort of.
So they have Massive has a couple of video games, which is a couple in the Tom Clancy universe, which is whatever. Another game, 2007 World in Conflict. They seem like they release games every 4 years or so. The one that just came out though is the Avatar open world game. That did not light the world on fire or get great reviews, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I remember when that came out.
Yeah, that I find.
That's why I think it was wise for Lucasfilm to choose Smuggler, because the character, as a smuggler type, just given that we know what that entails. It's cantinas and blaster fights and flying from planet to planet and jumping on a speeder and riding around the desert. It's, as long as it fulfills kind of that quota, I think it'll be a fantastic experience.
Totally.
I will say that, looking at this game from Avatar, it's on the Metacritic and stuff, it's at 72 out of 100, which is not a bad game. It's just not an amazing game. And so it's actually fulfilling kind of what we asked for, is just give us a lot of Star Wars games. They don't all have to be amazing AAA games. So
yeah.
It's running on Snowdrop, and now I want to see if Snowdrop is what. Anyway, we'll find out.
It's a gorgeous sort of graphics.
I've never even heard of that system. One. Great.
Yeah, and Star Wars Outlaws will be
Their own
using it.
proprietary.
So hey, I guess if you want like a look at like maybe what a next gen game on Snowdrop looks like, play the Avatar game. Maybe we'll have an idea of what they're doing because same publisher, same engine.
Okay, I'll look at a trailer. I mean, I guess
Yeah, I'm not gonna buy it, but maybe with
Yeah.
some Supercell, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Just to mess
Did
around.
they work on the Tom Clancy games? Did they work on the Division? Is that what they did?
I believe so. I think that's what I saw.
Okay.
All right.
Let me double check. Real quick, they did.
Wildlands, Ghost Recon Wildlands, maybe.
I lost the search. Forget it.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Yeah. We just went way down.
I'm just wondering
the
because
video game.
Oh no, there we go. Yeah, the Division. Yeah, they did.
Okay.
They did the Division. Both versions.
That's why I thought
Yeah.
multiplayer games and sort of like just robust sort of open world multiplayer experience, which would be cool if you could eventually customize.
I could see that as like a DLC.
That's also the Star Wars experience. I think a lot of us want is the KOTOR experience of essentially customizing your own character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going through the story as a blank slate and sort of building your allegiances as you go and building your ensemble. Like I think people are really desiring that.
Yeah, that's the holy grail. This game I won't be that. It seems like they're like, let's just get one character that'll be your avatar and make that open world. And then I think probably maybe not even next iteration, but the one after that, maybe we can actually get that full customization. I mean, there was supposed to be a KOTOR sort of remake happening or whatever, but I think that one's tanked. Jason, if you're listening, that was the one we didn't.
The more news, right? Like that game is not happening, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on how much they are so beholden to this. Everything has to be canon thing, which I'm like, I mean, yes, Jedi. Let's say like Jedi Survivor is the game that's canon. Every other game is Legends, and let us have some.
Yeah.
To be able to choose our
I would be
destinies.
totally fine with the entire Old Republic or whatever. If they wanted to carve out 1,000 years just for video games, I would be so fine with that. And that's the only way you can explore that thing. And it's like, there's a story, kind of like essentially
Star Wars Dynasty Warriors.
I mean, well, like I would say essentially like canonizing Knights of the Old Republic, or like or whatever narrative they want to actually give that. I think that would be fine. There's plenty of stuff before it and after it that can be explored. It's 25,000 years,
A lot of room
and growing, right? So, I'd be cool with that. But anyways, sorry, we went right down the rabbit hole there. In other news, John Wick director Chad Stahelski would like to do a Star Wars. He sort of had like an open. It was like in an interview, and they were talking about what sort of projects he wants to do. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, like if anyone from Disney's listening, give me a call. I think he said, I don't know if he said in a couple of years, but he's like, give me a call in a little bit. He's like, I've got some ideas that I'd like to flesh out in the Star Wars universe. So I'm trying to think. We did the director's draft.
The source for this is that guy at the cafe in Studio City.
No, it was an interview. It was him who said this. It wasn't. I'm paraphrasing a direct quote.
Yeah.
It actually happened.
But yeah, that was pretty much it. So I don't know. I mean, I remember we did the director's draft. I feel like I might have picked Stahelski.
Oh yeah,
I think he might have been, or at least an honorable mention or something like that. We talked about pretty much every director, I think, during that podcast. But
yeah, because that was around the time when they showed the John Wick motorcycle fight with a lightsaber. So that might have been. That might have come up. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd be into it. It's all about story, right? And I don't know. Maybe he has a very. He may not want to do the next, big trilogy that pushes the story forward, but he might have some other things. The Bosk standalone, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I
Whoopsie daisy.
I know, just slip it in there. And anyone, hey, give the man a meeting. Give everyone who wants it pretty much a meeting. And like, I love the fact that we're back to where we were. I think like when we started this podcast, of like all of the people who are like interested in, possibly attached, and like that's great. We did a little bit of this via text. Well, by we, I mean Grant was texting with Ben and I was working and then watching texts go by. I read it all, by the way, and agree with all of it, but I was not able to. I'm like, I cannot engage. I will lose 3 hours. But I will say that like I have no problem with someone like this directing a Star Wars movie. I still want to go back to, and we've talked about this a bit, of just like I think it doesn't necessarily need to be for directors, but when we talk about who's writing, we need teams. We need teams of people writing and directing, and I don't mean like large teams. A pair, a duo, a
A
dyad, perhaps. Like I will say, two kind of the best Star Wars things to come out during the Disney era are like The Mandalorian, which is a great combination of Jon Favreau's directing and
Filoni's lore bombs,
fun style, and Filoni's lore bombs.
So Adam, what you're saying is a council will make mistakes, but a dyad will see the path.
Absolutely what I'm saying. I was about to say that, but you took it from me. But it's true. I think that's true. Just like, because it still allows for creativity, allows people to bounce ideas off each other. It allows for yeses and nos to come through that aren't like feeling like being overpowered or ganged up on. And the other duo that I think was really good was Kasdan and Kasdan. I think having the young Kasdan, who again, we can have a whole discussion about nepotism, don't love it, but like someone who clearly is steeped in Star Wars.
That movie is fantastic.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, Kasdan the younger, I think, saved really made that a really compelling movie. Things that Larry, the Kasdan the Elder, doesn't care about at all. But it was all those little lore bombs, those juicy little tidbits that made it, that made it really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so pair the John Wick guy, who maybe might be the biggest Star Wars nerd ever, but
there's some competition up. There's some steep competition up there.
Yeah, pair him with someone, and
so we get the Rian Johnson trilogy set a few thousand years in the past or in the future, and Chad Stahelski comes in to direct all the action sequences, gets just incredible choreography, from the actors.
But here's the thing. I don't like that either. No, you're wrong, right? No, what I don't like about that is I think that was the biggest issue. We've talked about this. You've talked about this a lot of The Last Jedi. Not to start a Last Jedi conversation, but it needed more lore. It's one of my favorite.
You say
movies.
It 3 times, it will appear.
It needs more lore. It needs more connection to some things. And I think the fact that it was all Rian Johnson, who was an amazing director, an amazing storyteller, it felt somewhat disconnected because it needed someone like a Kasdan or a Filoni.
So let me posit this question to both of you before we, relitigate the movie again. So now Filoni is chief creative officer at, Lucasfilm. Yeah. So if The Last Jedi was being made today and, Filoni is looking over Rian Johnson's shoulder, do you think we get a different movie? And I'm saying this philosophically, looking forward, we will have Filoni there. How much do you think Filoni's really going to do? Because I think
it's kind of a revisionist quandary. So
I know it's so hard to say because we wouldn't have Filoni there without. I know.
That's why I'm saying with a vision towards the future.
Build on everything.
How much influence do you think Filoni would have been able to have on that movie? And by proxy, how much influence do you think he'll have in the future? But
I think to answer that question, 0 and now a ton. Does that make sense? Because we didn't know what we didn't know at that moment back in The Last Jedi, which I, again, love it. Not just me being defensive.
So you're just saying you can't even twist your brains.
But
all right.
If we were somehow today,
in a vacuum,
right? In a vacuum.
You're talking about this entire sequel trilogy and what?
No, just
someone in a creative, executive role.
Do you think Filoni has enough power and influence to go to a Rian Johnson and be I don't know. No, I really don't think that's what Luke Skywalker. I don't think he would have suddenly turned on his nephew and reflexively tried to kill him. Do you think that if he had said that Rian Johnson would have listened?
This is about Chad Stahelski directing a Star Wars, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, but I think
am I too far down the rabbit hole?
No, I mean, but that's what we do because I think we can even pull it back from just Rian Johnson and just we are in a new era of Star Wars.
I was thinking about just pairs and maybe where we could get Stahelski to come in and do some action. But
I do want to see a lightsaber
in the theater, in a feature.
Well, okay, so all right, I'll ask a different question then. Do you think
the question is what's the movie?
The story?
Do you think that?
Because Rebel Moon is an action for.
I want to talk about. I want to talk about Rebel Moon.
And I worry about that.
Does that mean I have to watch Rebel Moon?
No,
okay, thank you.
To me, it's very action centric and very over the top in terms of exploring the exact same themes as Star Wars, but just on the head, on the nose, and it just feels like so overt.
Can we just? Oh my God! I'm sorry, Ben. You're gonna lose your mind. Just walk away for a minute. So here's the thing. That's Zack Snyder to a T. That's his Dawn of the Dead is the exact same thing he did with the other Dawn of the Dead. That is every superhero movie he did. He just did Marvel, but to the extreme. And so, like, I'm just done with that man. Anyway, sorry.
The first 10 minutes of Man of Steel are incredible.
Oh my God!
And Watchmen is
And
Dawn of the Dead. I mean, we all like that movie.
I like that movie quite a bit because it's also who wrote that movie?
James Gunn.
Right. That's why it's a good movie. But it's the same thing. He amps it up. He takes all the morals and lessons of Romero's Dawn of the Dead and then just hits you over the head with it, where there's no mistaking with the anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to that, Ben.
Yeah.
We're off the rails. We're off the rails.
That's fine. Yeah, I wanted to try and steer us back, but you just mentioned Rebel Moon, so I just need to say my 2 cents and on that because I watched the first 30 minutes. I think it was after our podcast, and I was just like, feeling pretty good and just wanted to I wanted to watch some sci-fi. And I got about 30 minutes in and I was like, I can't. It was and listen, I can't make a movie. I can't make a movie that good. I can't direct a movie. I can't write a movie that good. So I'm just going to say that. But however, let that be a lesson to like anyone who thinks that like anybody can do a Star Wars. That they can't
come out from
Zack Snyder is an accomplished filmmaker
you go and try and make
he's an accomplished filmmaker in Hollywood. He's a respected filmmaker in the industry, and that was and I'm the biggest Star Wars fanboy ever, so like I can squint and look through C-3PO shaded glasses and sort of like see the Star Wars in there, and I was like it was
the motivations just like how the villain and just that character and just how reminiscent of it he was to just like the most fascistic characters in our own history. It was just like this is like Star Wars at least sort of tries to obscure things and also not make it so overtly a horrific sort of like scenario in which you have to exact revenge as your sort of rebellion, effort. It's more about the hope and the valor of heroism and sort of rising and growing and coming of age and hero's journey. It's not about sort of like viciousness and, trauma.
This is the man who took Watchmen, which is one of the best literary moments of our entire generation. It is a literary masterpiece to the point where Time put on it's the best 50 novels of the 20th century. Is a novel. Took the ending, which you look at as like schlocky and alien invasion, a fake alien invasion, but it's so clear what the authors are doing there. And you're just like, dumbasses aren't going to get it. I'm just going to make it whatever. Like he can't do metaphor. It's bonk, bonk on the head. Bonk, bonk on the freaking head.
All right. Adam has notes about Zack.
Anyways,
we are so.
But John Wick is a little that as well, I would say. And I think just Chad Stahelski, his incredible action blocking, incredible, set piece work, incredible stunts, incredible cinematography, capturing that action, which would be incredible in lightsaber fighting, which is like, maybe the Acolyte's a huge success. Maybe maybe there's a character from the Acolyte that's an incredible lightsaber wielder that then jumps into a feature film, and it's Chad Stahelski, the incredible action, choreography. It's something that really makes sense in a lot of ways. It's underworld, it's an underworld sort of character, right? So.
Masters of Terracasas.
Masters of Terracasas.
Wow. That's actually a nice
pitch. That's a good pitch. Yeah.
I'm into it.
So I guess
Masters of Terracasas, and it's Chad Stahelski this summer. Yeah, and it's an underworld sort of like
even more stairs
blade wielding sort of like characters.
Yeah, everyone will be like, "What?" They'll just like it'll just be sold as like, "Don't worry, it's the John Wick guy." Like, buckle up. Yeah,
I know. My favorite thing about
buckle up is
My favorite thing about this is I feel like I somehow have gone 2 weeks on Instagram without seeing the current Keanu in Star Wars like rumor, and now I saw that I'm like, here we go. And I'm like, I'm all for it. It's fine because the whole thing. You even heard the whole Acolyte rumors, right? Have you guys been hearing the Acolyte stuff? Everyone's convinced.
Oh no, I haven't saw that. That's great.
Wait, who?
Keanu.
Keanu. Marvel's Grant. I'll fill you in. Marvel's Mephisto relief is the same thing as what's going on with Keanu in Star Wars. Like every time there's a new Star Wars, everyone's like, Keanu's going to be in this one. It's going to be Keanu. He's going to show up.
Really? I didn't know that was
Yep, as
happening.
Revan.
Yeah, I've seen a million like photoshops of him as Revan, and it looks really cool.
He is like
I mean,
cast Revan.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it.
I know there's so many things, but he would be a great Stellan Geos or an Elzar man. Yeah, there's a lot of things he could do. But all right, so I'm tying back into my earlier question. Do you think if what is it, Stelsky? Is that how you pronounce his name? His last name? It looks like Stelesky.
The first time you said it.
Stahelski.
Stahelski. There it is. Stahelski. Yeah, Stahelski. Okay. If he was hired to do one, do you think having Filoni as chief creative officer is enough of a nerd in the room to help?
What about a show that's like the Jedi Trials? Because I've never seen that. I've always wanted to see what it looks like for them to go through like the trials and the acrobatic sort of nature of those puzzles and the sort of temple,
kind of like what we did in Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, and then
guess.
it's my favorite part of the High Republic stuff is we've been getting more of the trial stuff in the High Republic books and comics, and so it's an unexplored area.
Kind of unexplored, and lots of sparring. I
the way
imagine.
I've been reading it in the High Republic is that like there isn't a standardized trial. It's sort of like your master comes up with a personalized trial for everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which I like.
And when you're on like field missions too, where you're on a specific sort of planet that's a distant world of some kind, and then they just choose something that's that comes up.
Right. All right. Last time I'll ask, and then I'm giving up. Do you think Filoni is enough of a nerd to help Stahelski, or would you prefer to have a pocket nerd like BYO nerd?
I mean, yes, I mean, he's Lucas. I mean, as close as you get to Lucas without having Lucas, and possibly more Lucas than Lucas at this moment in time.
Ahsoka was
it was more
because,
Lucas than Lucas.
Yeah, I think he absolutely is. Yeah, I think he is, and I think it also depends, not to get too like inside baseball with this stuff, but it really depends on what they're doing there, if they're going to give him more control. But I don't see him as based on everything I heard about him and the way he works and the talking about it, I don't see him as putting his thumb on the scale too hard. More of just like, that's really cool. It might be an interesting idea to think about this as well. Go off and do your thing. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think he's there to more like, hopefully like spark creativity and also like make sure, like, do we have a plan going into, I don't know, a trilogy of movies?
Yeah. I think actually like his role is really going to be like a bro on set, and he'll kind of be there. And if, he'll be as available as people want him to be. But I'm sure he'll be in a room with Kathleen reviewing this stuff, being like, "Yeah, that doesn't really work that well," or "This would work so much better,"
Don't you feel that's what he was doing on Mando season 1 and 2? That's my feeling.
I think he was shoulder to shoulder with Favreau. That's what I'm wondering is like, is he going to have that much influence with all the people? Like, I'm sure he doesn't want to be overbearing, and no one wants to, step on people, but.
It might be based on the project and where he's needed and where he's asked to be, right? Like he might, depending on how important the movie is. And I just mean by important of just like these 3 movies that are coming out, they got to get these right? They got to get them right. And by right, I just mean like, I don't even know what I mean by right. So it's weird that I said that because I don't even say there's anything wrong, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
The first movie we have to look forward to here. The first,
Ray. Which
Charmin,
the director,
and I'm sorry I missed the third part.
Oh, you're so close.
Shmin?
Yeah,
Shinoy.
Right.
Yeah, and she had been out talking about it, so that's good. It's always good when they're like just out, answering random questions. I mean, no real information, but at least like acknowledging it's happening.
Yeah, that was weird. That I didn't mention that, but that did just go through the news cycle as well. Was just sort of like, this is happening and it's a step forward, and blah blah blah, and like and I mean they're saying that it's doubling down that it's going to be a new Jedi Order and a Jedi Academy and that sort of thing, which is sounds fun. All right, last thing we talked about that I think this morning. Not deeply, but Iman Esfandi said today in an interview that he didn't watch Rebels in preparation for his characterization of Ezra. He said he studied his Ezra's parents and Ezra's mentor, Kanan Jarrus, and his friends, and he essentially like studied the environment and filled in the blank in the middle, in the hole in the middle. Which I can't believe he's never seen Rebels, but he said he didn't watch Rebels as prep.
That's remarkable, given that he sounds exactly like.
Give that man an Emmy now, because like because there are certain roles where it felt like, actually I don't know how to say it, but like I don't know, he was to me the closest character to the character he's playing, and I mean that's even from people who are playing doing the same voice characterizations. Does that make sense? Like even like Thrawn didn't quite feel like Thrawn to me in that a little bit, and I know, but he was spectacular. So that's great. He's an amazing actor.
Well done.
Yeah, bravo. No, I want to see more of him.
Yeah, I thought Ezra was a highlight of Ahsoka. Like I really loved all the Ezra stuff.
He was the light that show needed at that moment. And I don't mean needed in terms of something was going wrong, but in like where that arc was going, you needed a beacon of light suddenly, and that he was it. And I thought
his past with Thrawn is a little confusing. Like I kind of just don't know what happened.
I don't know. Go off. You're fine. Don't worry about it. I'll kill you in a few years.
Don't worry. I'm never gonna attack you with my TIE squadron.
Yeah. I'll do it now. Now that you have two other Jedi.
Other people are here, I'm going to attack you. Now that you have allies, I'm going to attack.
Yeah, wild. I'm sure there's a story there. All right, that's pretty much all I got for news headlines. We really need to talk about these comics. Adam, do you want to take it away?
Sure. So we are going to talk about the Dark Droids miniseries, specifically the main run that consists of 5 issues, and then the miniseries D Squad, which takes place kind of in between. And the reason I think we're doing that is because D Squad plays, talk about that title a little bit, plays a really significant role in the climax of the Dark Droids plot. We're not going to talk about the main run series, Star Wars, Bounty Hunters, Darth Vader and Aphra. We'll do that a little later. Otherwise, we'd be talking about 40 some odd issues of comics. So we're just going to talk about kind of the main run and cover that. And this is, for those of you keeping score, this spun off of the Hidden Empire miniseries. Although it is completely separate in terms of it's not following Kira's plot lines, but we see like a very tease of it at the very end of Hidden Empire with the Spark Eternal. We'll talk all about that. And in a lot of ways, this started, I believe, in October, and you can feel it because this is very much a horror-focused miniseries. Not to give away my feelings, but I was in my glory reading this stuff, so I'm very happy with this. And even though you heard my rant last week about crossover events, I thought this one did okay.
Nice. You guys have.
I know my costume for next year.
Are you going to be Ajax Sigma?
I would too.
It's like a 20-limbed droid.
Oh my god!
Horror droid.
I'm just going to be a droid with human arms coming off of it, because how unsettling. No, I want to be an R2 droid with two
like
arms
decaying human arms in the front for some reason.
Yeah.
I have a child that's about the size.
Oh my gosh.
Of an R2 unit, so maybe I'll just put her in that and then have armholes and have her
just paint him gray.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah. So
I'm sure everyone will be fine with that.
So this is Charles Soule, and man, you guys had been talking smack about the series for like months, since last October, and so I always wait.
But
good
like smack is good.
But like you
good smack. Okay. Like heroin.
Yes, exactly.
Smack.
So
okay, good.
Yeah, so I was really looking forward to this, but it did not disappoint. It's just such like an awesome, fun like glimpse, and like just such an original Star Wars story that's still so like grounded in the lore.
It's kind of a huge event, but I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
As my like angry fan, whatever.
When
it's
the consciousness
it's a lot happens. It's kind of mind blowing.
It's weird to think about when you watch. So next time you watch Empire Strikes Back and then you watch Return of the Jedi, just think of the fact that between those two movies, really grounded movies. Now that you think about this comic series, all the droids came alive, took over humans,
hacked the Force,
and almost took over the entire galaxy.
I mind droid revolt.
So I know we're trying to get back on rails, but Travis is joining us again this week, which is awesome. And we mentioned bounty hunters, and he kind of was he was talking about Keanu a little bit, and he said, "What about Keanu as balance?" He thought that could be cool.
Oh,
How do you feel about that,
Block
Ben?
him. Block the rest of his comments.
no.
Sorry, Travis. I'm not a
Travis,
Valance
you're always
fan.
welcome.
Sorry, Travis. We're not really Valance fans, but
Yeah.
but
Which is cool if
that's
you
all right.
are, man.
It's very cool.
But
Yeah,
personally, I feel like he's been in too much stuff. I'm burnt out on Valance.
well, don't worry. I think you got one more issue.
I'm glad you said balance at the end of that
Yeah.
sentence.
No, just Valance. Just the character. I know he can't die, but can he die?
I mean, he could die. They killed him
I'm
off
not
in the old
convinced.
EU.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. They've been teasing his death for about 7 runs of comics too.
Since his creation.
So,
Well, he pops
Yeah.
up in this again, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun sort of
So
takeover.
you have
Can I-
two of the
can
other
I-
greatest characters in Star Wars in Lobot and Magna Tolvan, and then it's and Valance, of course.
and balance.
How could we?
Yeah, and balance. Can I ask that question? Because I'm
Guys,
gonna
we
jump to
can't
the end.
start
So-
here though. We gotta.
No,
we gotta
well,
get back
I'm
to
gonna
the
jump-
Spark
I'm gonna-
Eternal. And we gotta.
All right, you know you want me? Okay, yeah, I'll save the
Okay.
question. That's
Can
fair.
someone explain
Yeah.
to me, like I'm 5, what I'm looking at? I think I came around and figured it out because you essentially have 2 elements here. There's the Spark Eternal, which that's how Aphra escaped the Spark Eternal, was she put it in a droid, right?
I believe so. I remember she popped it off. It came off. I don't
Right.
remember how. It was just sitting on the ground, and then something came out of the fromage.
Fermata cage.
Yes,
Cage?
the cheese cage,
Fermata.
Wait, so
Which
the
cheese cage?
ancient Sith
the Fermata
trapped
cage. Yeah.
something in this little coin or this little droid, I guess. This little
Oh.
droid, the
No,
size of a coin, basically.
no, that was the thing that was Spark Eternal was stuck in, and then the thing came out of
Medallion
the
kind.
and then went into the medallion. So basically, you just it's like you
Okay.
got peanut butter in my chocolate. I got chocolate in my peanut butter. We 2 taste greats together, which is droid.
Okay, so
revolution.
that makes more sense. So there was a second. It was the entity that was trapped in the Fermata cage is what got inhabited by the
So-
Spark Eternal.
Here's what I'll say, because I got to SU4 and they were talking about the 2 entities. I'm like, wait, what did I miss? I had to go back to. It's not super clear. But if we're treating this as a horror story, the origin of the creature is not all that important. It is supernatural in nature. It does not need to have rules or make
Thank
sense.
you, Adam. That's great. That's great. Thanks for explaining.
You're
that.
welcome.
But I need to know.
It does make sense though, and there's great
I guess,
lore
but
that
it
they
does.
It seemed like
established, which they use.
The whole
do your homework.
personality of the thing was the Spark Eternal, not whatever the thing was that came out.
All right.
Well,
So
it's
very
programmed
strange.
to eat, right? It's programmed
Okay,
to
so
feed.
that's the thing that
so
needs to
there's
feed. Okay.
something before something gave it the programming to feed, basically.
Okay. So it was a droid consciousness that wanted to spread everywhere, but it was just like a
But
bad.
theoretically, it's also an organic
So
concept.
Okay.
it is.
All
So
right.
there-
This is making
so
sense.
The Spark Eternal opens up the dialogue trying to
Yeah.
understand what it is, right? Am I human? Am I droid? Because I've taken
Right.
over humans. Decides that it's droid, basically, this is more of what I am. At the same time, it is inhibited. It is inhabited by this other droid that comes out of the Fermata cage. And this other thing was basically just a droid entity that the Sith put in there because it had tried the same thing
Right.
basically before, like this thing. And so they both kind of got together and decided we are droid. I think the added idea was that because of the Spark Eternal, the Spark Eternal was like, no, we can do more than just take over all the droids. I want to be human again.
right.
We can be in,
And that's the
we
thing.
can get into human.
Yeah,
So it's
and
this
just
idea of
eating and expanding and taking it, finding solace in governing everything. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
But sidebar, can I get a story about Siths being bros? You know what I mean? Just Siths being bros.
Like the Sith point of view of that
Yeah.
story, like locked away this evil spirit in a medallion, and then that whatever that droid
Yeah.
consciousness was, the history of that, and then the Sith.
Yeah, because they're gonna solve that
Yeah,
problem by killing everybody, and I think that would be great. Or at least without the constraints of murder and the Jedi doctrine holding them back. They're gonna just figure that out.
I'm telling you, I think the second coolest time Star Wars can explore is when the Sith ruled the galaxy.
Yes.
Because I feel like
Agreed.
that is such
Yeah.
an interesting.
Yeah.
Just you have to kind of do things in secret. The good guys are basically operating from maybe just a few sectors, and then the Sith basically control or patrol most of the galaxy. I feel like.
Well, and you can do it in a way that doesn't feel like Star Wars the original. It's just like these are a scrappy band of rebels who are taking on like mostly other humans plus like one or two when you get to the sequels. Force users, really powerful people. But then if you tell a story of just like, no, there's these small group of scrappy people against an entire legion of dark force users, right? It becomes very interesting in terms of just like, this is a story of survival. This is not a story of victory. The victory is in the survival, not in overthrowing, right? Which I think is interesting. Breaking news, a couple things about Travis. One, he's on board with us. He feels like, and Grant, you love this, he feels like Valance feels like a generic 90s X-Men dude. You read our minds. He just needs a lot more pockets and a lot more pouches, and that's 100% right.
Muscle.
He's got enough. He needs like 20% more. Yeah, the other thing is that he's a comic reader because he mentioned that he thinks that Charles Soule knows what's going on with the Rey movie because in Star Wars 20, you see Rey standing in front of a temple that we haven't seen before. So more what I want to say is like, Travis, thank you. We love talking about comics. We're so excited that you're one of the comics readers as well. So that's very exciting for us.
Cool. Sorry.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Ben just grabbed his copy.
Sorry, I was looking to see like if they have any time earmarked as like Sith rule, and they don't really. They like say Seeds of Turmoil at like 2,000 BB or 20,000 BBY, but nothing exact. So, but there's a lot of space in there.
I'm hoping it's some sort of grand secret that there was a time, there was an era.
Yeah. I mean, I think there definitely was in, Legends, and it's too awesome to ignore. And I feel like they could even do it right at the beginning. Like, how cool would it be? Like, the first Jedi just goes straight dark because they just don't. There's like no rules. It's nihilism with the Force, and then like,
well, they don't know what they're doing. We'll pull them down the
Anyways,
path, right?
but we see the Sith deal with this coin from long ago.
Yeah.
And
all right, so we're on page one.
Page one. We got to get past page one.
Yeah.
We could have gone deep on
this. I mean, I don't know if we need to like retell the whole story of the droids, but I mean, that's pretty much it. They're trying to stop this menace, and everyone, they take over a Star Destroyer, and they take over, they infiltrate the Republic, and then they infiltrate a planet. Yeah. And then a city, and then a planet.
And then they figure out how to jump to
hybroids.
Hybroids. When I heard that, I was like,
let's talk about hybroids for a second. Yeah. It threw me for a second, but I'm like, I like a new term.
Cyborgs and hybroids. Those words were used a lot in this. In these, issues. It was so good.
Yeah. So then all in this quest to take over human consciousness. And then they really want to take over a force wielding human consciousness, and that's where the trouble begins. And like he goes up against Luke, and he goes up. I mean, then there's a Vader scene that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Oh, well, just wait till you read the Vader comic because you get that over a couple of issues. Like that whole thing is built out. Yeah. Which we will cover, but also go read the. I will say
that's what's crazy watching the movies is thinking about what happens to Vader.
Right? I know you can't. You just can't do it. It breaks your brain.
Wait, what happens to what?
What I was gonna say is that, like the fact that like to Vader between like Empire and Return, like it's like he remember the time he got like pulled out of his thing by droids and then like taken over and then. Also,
talk about a nightmare. I mean, even though like Vader's a villain, it's like you're a quadriplegic and you get like dragged out of your thing by like and attacked. Then people are trying to kill you. Like,
well, and the boss move of like pulls the lightsaber to himself with the Force, and the droid catches it. It's just a great moment of just
that's not going to do it. Yeah. And he's like, and then he goes, I mean, amazing.
So the other thing is like this is like. Palpatine and the Sith on steroids, because the Spark Eternal or the Scourge, as the joined force becomes known as, goes from let's take over all the droids. That's not quite enough. Let's take over all the droids and hybroids. That's not quite enough. Let's take over all the droids, hybroids, and humans. That's not quite enough. Let's just take over
Force.
Everything using the Force,
right.
Like which is it connects everything. Like I love that idea of how fast it goes down.
Because that's what stopped it before, and. It wants to understand, that's the one thing it needs. It's the one weakness.
It just wants to be safe.
Also, cool that Soule sort of like brings droids into the fold of equality by like making it so that the Scourge doesn't discriminate between sentient, life or characters basically, or beings, and basically treats droids and organics the same essentially. It needs to harvest and feed on just sentient minds, and droid or organic, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it's so cool. I think Sewell is just genius in that regard in terms of like.
And then the next thing he did, it is the most. I mean, one of the coolest things I've ever seen in Star Wars. Just I think because I love this stuff, it's like it went almost a little Westworld and like philosophy and like bicameral mind. It got so big that it needed to fracture its mind into components.
So cool. Yeah, that was
into its own kind of version of a Jedi Council.
Did, but it was
like a baby droid.
He like delegated.
I was like, we need a black series
the
of
baby
like,
droid.
No, give me that. Nope. Like that's going to be a Galaxy's Edge when I go to Galaxy's Edge in the summer. It better be there. It better be, and I will go buy that thing. Because the thing is just like that baby is horrific and amazing, but also like literally basically like we forgot about Ajax. We have to pay attention to Ajax. They don't. Yeah. And then like that's their downfall.
Can we talk about Ajax?
Yeah.
Can I?
We should.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to talk a little bit more about this because I just it was my favorite part. But it was like it's I mean so it broke down its brain. It had the elder, it had the warrior, the scholar, and the child, and the child was his fears essentially. And it's just like, the warrior, pretty straightforward. The scholar's like, okay, I'm doing all the science and getting all the things mobilized, but the child's like, no, I'm your fear, which I just find fascinating. This is the part of like all our bodies that we hate. It's like
that conversation he has with the elder at one point, where it's like, that was very bicameral mind, where it was almost like they're commenting on each other.
Yeah.
And who's actually like chicken or the egg scenario of like, when did he need to feed, and was he always intended to feed, and like they kind of want to end this cycle or something. And it was just like so cool. Like I was like, that conversation was awesome.
That was I mean, wait, the elder was the instantiation of the spark eternal. It was like the other half of the two things. I think that was the spark, right? And it had the history.
Right. I think so.
And so it could actually talk to its like its thing. Yeah. And they both looked at each other, and the child were like, you know what? The child's really right. We could be a force for good. This could be awesome. And then they're like, no, F that. They destroy the other elders. I mean, the other minds.
We have to end the force.
Yeah, they're like, nah.
It's but the lesson of the story, which is an amazing Star Wars lesson, which is again, Sewell is just like, this is why he was elevated to. He's also been elevated in his position, similar to Filoni. Like he's been upped to like creative something or other. Like he is a lot of, I think, especially with the comics, because he gets it. And like, I always hate saying stuff like he gets it because it just sounds so. But you know what I mean? Like he understands Star Wars at a core. Yeah,
he does
more than any of us. But like the thing is, the lesson is just like, no, don't take your fear away. Like your fear is necessary, which is an interesting thing to say, right? Because the Jedi also talk about fear being a bad thing.
Right.
So I don't know what the lesson is here. Are the Jedi wrong? Is fear important?
It's like,
because fear is what warns us. Fear is a survival mechanism.
Right.
We need our fear.
Yeah, like anxiety is fear. Like that, all that stuff. I'm like dealing with all that, and just that's a healthy part of your brain telling you just like, what's up.
It's your innocence,
keeping you safe.
For my many years of therapy, I was supposed to say thank you to my anxiety.
I just learned that last week.
Because it's trying to help me.
Thank you, baby droid. No, shut up.
Yeah, thank you, but I don't need you right now.
I don't need you at all. I'm going to destroy my fear. But no, I love how you made that an analog to the Jedi too. It's sort of like they could totally do that with the whole psychology angle and be like, you need to recognize your fear. Yeah.
It's distracting the conversation. It's basically climbing out of its seat and like really trying to get their attention and not wanting to do anything that they're planning, essentially.
Yeah. The key is to understand and listen to your fear, but then not act on it. So that's that could be another realm. Or not act badly and, not get hooked by it. Right. So
again, I think I love Yoda, some of the best knowledge of all time. He says some stuff that's just straight up dumb. Do or do not. There is no try.
Oh,
Shut up.
that got me through like half my life.
Oh,
Wait, you're gonna do that to us right now?
shut up.
It's the greatest line in Star
Fear
Wars.
leads to hate. No, it doesn't.
There's a Rebels. There's a Rebels.
Fear can lead to hate. Like, this is my problem.
Right.
Oh, by the way, we don't deal in absolutes. Sith deal in absolutes. Everything Yoda says is an absolute.
You're giving me a lot to think about, Adam, but I'm not going to.
All right. I'm
no, you're not wrong.
Yoda's amazing. I love him. But the point is like, here's the thing, is that I love Yoda. These are mantras, right? And mantras are important things. They allow you to ruminate. Like, he does not say these things because he expects his students to take them and believe him. He says, do it or not, there is no try to Luke, so that he says it and starts thinking about it and thinking about what that means and how to apply that, which is what you did, Ben, right? Applied that in a way that's true. And same thing with like fear leads to hate. It's not that we don't fear the feel, as you were saying, or feel the fear. We don't act on that fear.
Do or not. So I was never one of those like, one of my takeaways from like the films that I always thought about. It was just there. It wasn't like a luminous beings, not this crude matter. Like, it wasn't something I like actually think about. That. So it's like, I get that. I get going after that. That's actually the most criticized line that I think Yoda has. I've heard so many people criticize that line, and it's fine, and I think there's actually a really fantastic Rebels episode that actually tries to
subvert that a little. Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Backfill and like add all this meaning to it, and I just go watch that and then come back and talk about it, because I feel like it might change your mind a little bit in terms of. Well, Yoda gets to have a moment, I think, in that episode.
Yeah. I will definitely rewatch it. I say that mostly to joke, because I don't actually buy it, because I feel like. Again, I feel like he's saying that to get people to think about what he's saying, right? Like, he's saying it to students to as a teaching point, which, again, as a person who educates, I say a lot of things, and then in my mind I'll be like, so like when you're teaching, like when I'm teaching like first year students, I'm teaching them something, I'm teaching a concept, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll say something, and in my mind I'll be like, that's not 100% true. If it's actually like this, then it's like this. And if it's like that, it's like that. And then that happens, and that's not really true in this situation. That's not really true there. But if you're teaching minds that can't go there yet, you just set the foundation, and then when I see you in senior year,
we'll get into nuance.
Yeah,
we'll get into nuance, right? Like, I feel like that's what's. And Luke is just like, Luke is a first year remedial student, at that point.
Yeah.
Wow. So we should talk about Ajax. This is the flip side of the droid coin.
We got to talk about the colony.
Speaking of Ajax,
colony of the second revelation.
Yes.
Travis. Yeah. Amazing. I was gonna say, Travis just mentioned, what is the pop culture obsession with naming things Ajax, and listed like
Ajax Sigma.
It's Ajax in Star Wars, Ajax in Deadpool, Ajax in Eternals. There's a lot of Ajax going on there.
Character from Greek,
well, there you go. Look at the big brain on. The big brain on 100%. That's what the obsession
love
is.
To look at.
There you go.
Iliad,
asked and answered.
Homer's epics, and sort of you take characters from those and use them as modern sort of archetypes, especially for crusaders or heroes, right? Ajax was a great warrior. Ajax Sigma is also a great warrior, wields a sword. But I don't know.
This is why Gray is the writer.
And Star Wars has like now a Peter and like a Simon and like an Ajax. There was some name stuff in here that
Gertie.
I was like, Gertie's fine. I was just okay with that.
It's like naming your Rottweiler Susan. I think it's kind of cute.
Well, can we talk about? So what we're referring to are the names of the droids in the Ajax's collective, and it just totally escaped. What's it called? The
colony of the second revelation.
The colony of the second revelation. And I love the fact that they threw off their shackles. I mean, part of this I love that. What I love about this is, and I'm all about droid stories, as we know. Like, I've talked about this. Like, I want a movie that's all droids. I really thought we were gonna get with Taika's movie. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think the movie's gonna happen. I don't think he's gonna do it. But I feel like that one of the things that he is doing that I love is this idea of not like, we are not revolutionary necessarily. We found an area that those who have gone past a certain level of consciousness can come. And there's a line, I think in the last one, where he says something along the lines of, there are those of us who have chosen to still work with the humans and help the humans.
And that's cool.
We do not judge them. Like, and I love this idea of like that he's gone from this like this revolutionary killer in the High Republic era, like taken down by Loden Greatstorm.
Was that who got him?
Yeah, I believe so. I'll double check. I think it's Loden takes him down. Or no, it might not be Loden. It might be
they had some frames in D Squad.
Yeah.
Showing in battle.
D Squad had all like the juicy lore.
Yeah.
that I wanted. I was like, R2 gets spaced by C-3PO. Like, where does he go?
Yeah. So quick backstory on Ajax. He was part of the High Republic droids, and basically was just like wiped out an entire moon. And then the Jedi sent out like Loden Greatstorm, took him down. His core ended up in the ground. That's when Han Solo and Chewbacca found him.
Right.
Found that, and then ends up that in the end that basically they send out another droid, finds him, brings him back. That starts the second revelation. He gets rebooted because they wanted to bring back this like great revolutionary, and he comes back like generations later, going, "No, we need to just be our own peaceful thing over here."
He went and just sort of like meditated for a couple hundred years and was like, and just gave up his like, war-filled ways. He's like, no, this is peace actually.
But he's all about, the self-aware droids, having their own independence and just freedom for droids, and that juxtaposed against the Scourge just like wildly taking over droids, across the galaxy, at its will is just
it's brilliant.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Do you want the sociologist to me to pop out for a minute here? All right. So the first revelation is I.
Yep.
The second revelation is we.
Yeah.
The third revelation is them. We'll stop there. We'll talk about the fourth revelation at the end.
Right.
I, we, them. That is how civilizations formed.
Right.
Like humans first became self-aware, and then they became aware as a group. And then once groups form, out-groups form. This is where the sociology part comes from, which is the them, the other, the outside. And like the them is important, but it's also dangerous. Like when he starts saying them, I'm like, oh no, like this is where we get tribalism.
Them and the other is definitely just it's terrible because you're basically creating something that's the object outside of yourself, the outsider.
Yeah.
Outside of you, which is othering anything. It's
I don't see how that could possibly be a problem in any sort of applicable sense.
No, we've never seen that happen.
No one's ever scared of people just because they're
history.
different from them, right?
No, that's no, never. Yeah.
Cool. I missed out on all history, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Or current events.
Yes, I also don't have a TV.
Yeah, America. You'll get all you need to know about that here.
yeah, pretty much everywhere. Any hoozle. Yeah, but no, I just love the way that, that dichotomy was just beautiful. And then like he became a priest. It took me a while because I'm like, wait, is that the same Ajax as like it? And then I read Dark Droids first. So when I got to D Squad, I was like, okay, I probably should have read D Squad first, I guess, in hindsight. Because they have like a mini issue about, it's called the Book of Ajax. The end of the first issue of D Squad. And it tells this whole backstory. And that was...
It's so cool.
Was that buried on a Maxine station? There was another Maxine station reference.
Yeah, I thought the Jedi were fighting Ajax on a Maxine station.
Oh wait, no, because that's where the Spark Eternal.
Spark Eternal is.
And that's where the Fermata cage was.
And the Fermata cage. The fromage cage is. It's
the fromage cage.
No.
Heretofore named the fromage cage.
Yeah. Are we at Epiconia yet, or whatever that planet was?
Yes, we are. We can't be.
Yes, we're at Epiconia. And arriving.
No. I was just wondering.
No. Yes, we are.
No, we didn't even get into like the sort of cyborg hybrid hunt that happens, sort of like, or just sort of him gathering the cyborg team, taking over hybrids, trying to like establish sentience and trying to become organic or become meat.
Yeah. Yes.
As he says sometimes.
Meat.
And dude, and if Phison Gore gets a name drop.
Right.
Like,
Phison Gore. Yeah, Phison Gore.
And I was like, what?
Our old friend Phison Gore, who from episode 7 of our podcast.
Yeah.
maybe like
It was amazing.
Yeah,
I love
that character was created. This is for Grogu. That character was created in Last Shot, the
Last
Lando
Shot, yep.
Calrissian novel.
Is that Daniel
Yeah.
Jose Alder did that book?
Really?
Yes. Daniel Jose Elder.
That's
wrote
amazing
Last
because it's been so long
Correct.
I forgot, and like he's my hero right now in general.
Why do I keep forgetting that? Anyways, that is
Because it was 6
Cantina
years and
favorite.
78
And
podcasts.
Physing Gore was all about sort of like the vivisection of droids and humans and sort of droid
Yeah,
parts.
he was kind of the other side of the coin, right? He was sort of like humans will be improved by being made droid, by like assimilating with the
Right.
droids. Whereas, yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Travis Mitchell, Travis has proven his Star Wars bona fides because as we were debating it, he's like, yeah, from the Last Shot.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm ahead of you.
Yeah. Let's keep up. Yes, and it is. Yeah.
So I like so many great drops, and I just love it. It's so good. The other thing is, so let's figure out hybrid. So I'm trying to figure out the distinction because again,
Let's do it.
sociologist. So I need my
Science.
boxes. I need my.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that hybrids are cyborgs with cranial advancements because we see Lobot who has the cranial, Magva Tolva who I think has cranial implants. She at least has the thing that goes all the way around the back of her head, right, an upper thing, and then of course Valance who is
there's almost no.
See, I thought
No
a
brainer.
hybrid
I don't even
was
know if he has a
droid
brain
with
left.
limbs, and I thought a cyborg was organic with cybernetic.
right. So cyborgs would be things like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, who are cyborgs.
Right.
And Valance.
But you're
is a
saying so
cyborg.
if there's a
think Valance is
partial mental interface with
Yeah,
electronics, then you're a hybrid.
but at the same time,
No, but that's a blurred line.
it's
at that
so
point.
blurred line, especially when you start reading the books, because I feel like they're able to almost take over Darth Vader. And as I understand, Darth Vader doesn't have any cranial, like any brain implants.
Vader? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Neural
Yeah,
wear.
neural
Yeah,
wear. There you go. To bring in some
Right, but it does control like subcognitive
Cyberpunk.
functions, like
Yeah.
breathing. I don't know.
Right.
I'm
right.
okay.
So maybe it's enough to go in there because it's in the autonomic system.
Right.
Right.
Right. There.
That sounds right. I mean,
Sure.
science.
Sounds like science.
Yeah.
Wait, so hybrids are Lobot?
Lobot is,
a
I
hybrid?
believe, all Magva Tolva, Lobot, and Valance are all hybrids.
Yeah.
I love how quickly we've latched on this. I could look this up, but I'm enjoying more having this discussion of what is a hybrid.
No, this
what
is
a cyborg.
fascinating. Okay, so what are the droids with like human limbs on there?
Monstrosities?
Yeah, those are just monstrosities.
Okay, they don't
They're
get
nothing.
Limbs.
I mean, other than like the things I will dream about and wake up and be like, that was the best nightmare I've ever had.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the most Adam, group
Can
of
I ask a
panels
legit
I've ever
question?
seen.
Do you ever wake up from a nightmare and go like, "Oh, that's pretty good"?
Yeah.
Well, there's like medical.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Medical
Like,
droids.
oh, brain, well done. That really messed with me. Like I was like really scared, but it's like, okay. Do you want to know? Okay. Ugh. Here's what's really infuriating. We just wasted all our time. Apparently, hybrid and cyborg are just same terms.
Same thing.
They just use the same terms.
Yeah.
Hybrid is a hybrid between a sentient and a droid. All right. That's annoying. I don't like it. I'm going with my designation.
Yeah, I like yours better.
Wait, so hybrid is almost like Star Warsification of cyborg.
Right, but we've already, but they also use the term cyborg in this comic
Yeah,
series.
I know. Cyborg's already been widely
I'm so upset
used
my
in-
voice is cracking.
Yeah.
What's the deal with cyborg and
Like,
hybrids?
Oh god.
Um,
Adam, we gotta let all of the terms exist.
But I will say, Ben, and for our listeners and for Grogu, if you're interested to see how those three hybrids / cyborgs got assimilated, oops, wrong. Shouldn't say assimilated. Wrong. We're not talking about the Borg. Wrong fandom. But if you're curious to hear their backstory, like that's where like the Star Wars main run, the Darth Vader bounty hunters and Dr. Aphra kind of deal with those characters actually getting pulled in. So it goes a little deeper into those stories, which are awesome. Like this is, again, not to like hit it too many times, but I feel like this is the way to do a crossover event. where you just tell those stories deeper, but there's not anything major happening in them, and they're almost standalone stories. It's also leading up to, and Grant, are you current on the Star Wars?
Darth Vader 41 just blew my mind. Honest.
We'll say it on the pod.
Yeah, because I'm not caught up.
What about?
Oh, we can just
We're
not going to be back here for a while.
We did it on the text. It was one of the I think Ben had one of the best lines in a text line that I ever saw, and I laughed for quite a while. But we won't say it online because it doesn't work. But Grant shared a picture of the end of Darth Vader 41. You're like, that's the future of that sounds like Star Wars in 2024. I can't remember the line, but I'm like, yep. But anyway, look back on the text. You'll have to go through walls of text from today. You'll have to go through 78.
I just found it. Yeah.
But
it was the Schism Imperial.
It was pretty amazing. But I'm very excited that we're getting into. We'll talk about D Squad in a second. But I'm very excited that we're getting into, I think, standalone stories that are like repercussions of what's happening in these. Like, I'm very excited for what they're about to do in main run Star Wars. I don't know, Grant. Are you caught up in Star Wars main run?
I really only get Vader like physical issues. So
you are fired. No, that's fine.
Maybe I should be because I know Star Wars main run goes.
I won't just say it. We'll talk about how we get here. We're leading into the trial of Lando Calrissian. Is what we're going to get in main run because he does some sketchy stuff to save Lobot, and I thought of you, Ben, when I was reading this whole thing of just like,
can't wait.
He loves Lobot almost as much as you do.
Thank you. Yeah, there was definitely a panel at the end of D Squad where I was like, "Whoa, we're there already." Okay, we get Lando in his well, it's just such a great panel because it's R2 in disguise running into Lando in disguise, and I don't think they know who each other is.
No, it's a funny
gag, but in Jabba's palace. So I'm like, all right, we're almost there. If Lando's in Jabba's palace in that uniform.
Let's talk D Squad, but I have one question, kind of final Dark Droids question, which is going to hit the end. But now that we're at the beginning, but now at the end, I can do it. Is that like so? Oftentimes, when you have a giant crossover event in Marvel main run, like superhero comics, you can almost always count on a big death.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's always going to be like, oh, this character's dead. And then like 6 months later, they find a way to resurrect them. It's fine. But like you get a big death.
Yeah.
And this is the thing where we got through this. And I thought, okay, you have Lobot, Magnetova, and Valance all taken over.
Yep.
And I'm like, who are we going to lose? And the answer is no one. We lose no one other than all these other poor humans who we don't care about this just fodder who got their limbs taken off.
We don't see Lobot.
The amount of fodder in this event series is
we don't see Lobot in Return of the Jedi. And so I had that thought too. I was like, oh.
So did I. When I was reading this, I'm like, oh, this is going to be metal. This is going to have the kill off Lobot. And I'm like, I'm not wishing Lobot dead because I love him. But I'm like, but if you're going to do something big.
That would be big.
Maybe this is what you do.
Yeah.
And nope, Lobot's stuff because they don't want to do it because they might want to bring him back for a movie or a TV show or something higher level than comics.
I really hope he seeks out Ajax Sigma or Sigma, seeks out Lobot or their paths cross somehow and like they save him and Lobot goes and has like the Mandalorian finale from like season 3 somewhere and just touches grass for the rest of his life.
Incredible.
But that's just because I love Lobot. But the only other thing I wanted to say about that run, I mean, we talked about that council, but it was like the polyarmed Indian god version of the Scourge, where it was Brahma or Shiva or Vishnu or something like that. It was just amazing. Where it had real arms. That was even that Star Destroyer they took over and then they instantly kitted it out.
Modified.
Yeah. The Scourge 1, just whenever anyone takes over.
Scourge 1, is that what
it's called?
Yeah, that model. I mean, that's a great ship. Yeah. It's a fantastic idea, like the concept of droids capturing a sort of flagship, destroyer class ship. It's like that's so interesting. Just the concept alone. It's I don't know. I really like.
I'm down for any group taking over an Imperial Star Destroyer. I always wanted the Rebellion to do it, but it's
always works.
Just rogue people be like, how does this thing work? And it's this giant killing machine.
The Mandos take over a Star Destroyer. I'm like, yep, yeah,
right,
yeah. That'd be great. I mean, they had a light
yeah.
cruiser, which is a good start,
Like,
but like
Getting there.
Yeah, but they're getting there. Maybe they'll get one.
Wasn't that in the will of not the will of the force? The what was the other episode 9? What was the
Duel of the Fates.
Duel of the Fates? Didn't they take over a Star Destroyer in that?
Yes, they did in the first act.
The Resistance took over a Star Destroyer.
That's a good first act.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
So 2 things. One, I want to put this back burner. Travis mentioned that Lando is his favorite character, which is like bravo. Right. But he was kind of like off put by how much they presented him as sleazy in this run in Star Wars. So I want to I want to
in
when we
D-Squad
get to the Star Wars in the Star Wars in the
Sorry,
Star
Travis, we're not there yet.
But when we cover it, I want to put that in the back burner because I want to discuss that because what he was saying, which I think is clear, is that like because he thought like his arc was really clear in Episode 5, right? In Return or in Empire Strikes Back, and so that's really interesting. And I think there's a really interesting, good critique there, and I want to revisit that when we get there.
I think Lando. We'll get into it later, but I just think
we love Lando.
When it comes to people he loves, he's willing to bend rules, and then he can he can do some things.
Well, I think we'll get a series too that will eventually, I think, explain.
I hope that happens.
When he was a sportsman and when he became an administrator, and sort of like, I could see this just really awesome, complex arc for him that to become sort of someone who manages lots of people and like a city essentially, and like that is. That's who he is. I feel like from that point on, and sort of like whatever Han and Lando were in the past together, I feel like that's really it's sort of faded after Empire because he's he's taking care of so many people.
I realized my Jaws 3 posters sneaking
so
out
it's
in the background.
Weird post Empire for him to do like anything that's sort of like anything that's like a smuggler would do or something that Han and him would do back in the day. It's it's just weird.
It is, and this is, I think, a general like over critique of the comics, and me love comics. One of my favorite like art forms, medium, is that while I love filling in the space between Episode 4 and 5, and now 5 and 6, it's hard to create tension when the character arcs are somewhat complete. So like we've seen this with Vader. Vader's a good example of like we've seen so much up and down between 5 and 6 because like it's just like wait, how are we gonna
basically Frankenstein. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
But he's like starting to have feelings again. Then he's like no, hardcore dark side, and then starting to have feelings again, and then like
or Travis does a anyone up for a Karate Kid Cobra Kai reference?
Sure.
It's just like spot on. It's sort of how I was reading, sort of how like Johnny says, "You're all right, LaRusso," at the end of Karate Kid, but then they have to revert Johnny back to being a prick at Cobra Kai to work. Which I'm like, that's 100% true. Like that's
and that's a trap I see lots of big IP things falling into over and over again, which is sort of like big adjustments to the lore or what we know to be the sort of the story thus far, but then sort of reverting back to sort of please the what the story has always meant, and sort of paying tribute to the legacy of the story itself. And it feels like I'm seeing that a lot, not just in Star Wars. I see it all over the place, and not even in the just Star Wars comics. I see it like just all over, in lots of Star Wars
I'll
things,
accept it.
where it's sort of like
they're great stories.
Yeah,
like,
no, I'll
take
it too.
Yeah.
I'll take it too. Where it's
I just want to go on the ride.
Yeah, I also just want the ride, and like, but I just feel like there's a lot of like, oh, we're gonna kill Chewbacca. We're not gonna kill Chewbacca. And it just
well, also
just
give us more than five. Give us more than 5 minutes.
Microcosm of what I'm talking about. Yeah,
like that is. I mean, not to like relitigate, but that is just. I mean, that happens, and then 5 minutes later, like, no, he's alive. I'm like, you could have at least given us an act.
All right.
Give us an act.
All right,
where we think he's dead.
Devil's advocate or Vader's advocate. I couldn't think of anything else while Chewie was dead.
Then don't do it. Or no, but that's the point. Is like, but that's the thing. It's like you have to. You're Star Wars. You have to accept that you're gonna have multiple rewatch by fans. So if you feel that way and miss an entire act, that's okay. Especially because
go back and,
behind the scenes, we knew we were gonna go see that movie again in an hour and a half. Because yes, we were hardcore and bought 2 tickets and watched it back to back in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Chewie would have been huge if he died in that movie. Like huge.
I think there would have been pitchforks.
Like I would have been collecting all the Chewie figures I could get. Like I would have been just obsessed with Chewbacca after that film.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would have made him just so interesting. Like what a courageous, amazing warrior. And then
to go out getting killed by
falls,
accident
it's
by like an OP Jedi. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd rather see him crushed
tough.
by
It's
a
almost like
planet.
the scenes before that would have needed to get adjusted for that to actually work. Like you would have to like take out a battalion of stormtroopers and then get taken away or something.
Yeah, you need him having like a Hodor. He needs to die like Hodor. Right? Like he needs to die holding the door. Like he ends up like wrestling a million stormtroopers.
Right. Yeah, like takes out like a squad of stormtroopers and then
where he keeps getting up and then he finally doesn't get up.
You're so right. You're so right.
Stop plotting Chewie's death, you monsters.
Also, we do have the Rey movie. I mean, I'm just saying, it's not too late.
Don't you even plant that seed in the ether?
Okay. To support my point of like give it an act, Travis's friend went to the bathroom, came back, and in the time that he went to the bathroom, came back,
Chewie died and came back,
and didn't know that.
I really wish there was a cutaway to Chewie when the first transport exploded, and he was just like, "Oh,
I mean, he does do a Tarzan yell, so I could absolutely see do a rut row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, should we cover D Squad finally?
I guess. I mean, I say not negatively. I'm just having fun. But yes.
Sorry, don't let me ruin your fun. But I'm going to ruin your.
No. There's no more fun to be had. Let's talk about D Squad. Wait, that sounds negative too. I do like D Squad. I don't know what you're accidentally saying. That it's like
right.
It's good. Oh wait, hold on.
Okay.
All the way back, there was two things I want to say. The fourth revelation.
Yes.
Is all. So we have we, them, all. Which is fascinating. I love this. This is such a great ending to this because it is like all could be a good thing, all could be a bad thing.
Yeah. Wait a
we just saw all be a very bad thing.
You're saying that it's juxtaposed against some very, evocative imagery of sort of Ajax Sigma holding the medallion of Spark Eternal.
Yep. And
sort of like the idea that he's going to resurrect this thing.
Maybe, but maybe to something that's good, right? Like sure. I feel like he believes in the good of things, so it doesn't necessarily mean, but it could be evil. Like, this is a great horror ending, right? It's at the ending of a horror movie. The monster's not dead. The monster could come back. It is the last scare, but also could it be a good thing?
That's actually a really compelling Star Wars sort of enemy from within the galaxy that could be very interesting as a sort of droid, manifestation that is focused on the Force, basically. What I mean? Like that is super haunting and compelling.
There's that amazing. I think it's in issue 1, but like Luke talking to 3PO, who's possessed by the Spark, by Scourge, talking about like the Force and like and Luke seemed like the Force is everything. So I guess maybe there could have been a droid that used, like anything's possible.
He's like because I think C-3PO's like, or I think the Scourge is like I can't see it or sense it or scan it. Like I can't. I don't feel it basically. And I was like, that is fascinating, honestly. And like that whole just dialogue we talk about AI and we have all these fantastic movies that come out that sort of, comment on AI but the sensibilities are all about like just, AI's pervasiveness and what it means for our world and then what an AI threat might look like or, how AI might help us or whatever the genre of the film may be. But the commentary of like AI and like a magical power, like that is so interesting. I was like, this is only Star Wars can do this sort of stuff. I think like talk about religion, talk about interesting AI dynamics you won't get in other sci-fi. It's cool. Like it's very cool.
Yeah.
Can I side note AI? I just read this issue today, so apologize, Ben. Close your ears because I'm going off on a real tangent here. The current Fantastic Four run in Marvel is quite good. And it just and Ben's going. But Grit, if you're not reading it, you should read it. It's really great.
I need to. I love it.
It's really good. It is kind of like, it reminds me of like old Fantastic Four, just like giant ideas, big ideas.
Okay.
But this current, I mean, it's not run, but this current arc, which I think was like 12 issues, ends with AI. And it's a different take on AI that I really love because I was kind of talking to like my wife about AI. We're all like, AI is going to kill us and it's going to be horrible. And I'm like, maybe not. maybe we're gonna look like pets, like Ben just did to his nice pet. Is like maybe we're gonna look like such whatevers that they're gonna be like, no, give them a treat, let them go outside for a little while, give them everything they want to keep them happy, right? Like part of me is like, I wonder if AI is just gonna be like, yep, we are now the highlight form and they're the dogs, and like if I want anything, it's like just keep creating content, just keep doing whatever, and feed me and make me happy. Anyway, I'm like maybe
we'll become their reality TV stars.
Maybe it's a utopia. Maybe like everything's dystopian tales. Maybe AI leads to a utopia. I don't know why that would happen, but I'm like, why not? Like, let's at least have some hope. Yeah, like a 10% chance. I
kind of like the more optimistic takes on AI these days because I think we've heard all the sort of
the Matrix
dreaded pessimistic sort of outlooks.
But the Fantastic Four run splits the difference between that in a way that I actively got teared up reading the end of that run. The way that I'm like, oh, it's a gut punch. It's awesome. It's so good. Anyway, read the current Fantastic Four. I don't know who's writing it. I know nothing because I read so many comics and I don't take notes. Bravo to whoever. I can look it up, but read the current Fantastic Four run.
Lovely. D-Squad. Was there? You said there was a second thing. Was the Fantastic?
That was the second was the fourth. But I have 8 more things before we get to D-Squad.
That's fine. I mean, we'll just have another 3-hour podcast. So I just thought it was cool. D-Squad was originally we get Whack 47, the dumb series pit droid who runs into the spaced R2, and they were both on the Clone Wars D-Squad, and so that's I think where the moniker comes from. But the D-Squad evolves into like all the coolest droids in Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a cool sequence too, where R2 jets around and meets him. That's so cool. Yeah.
Frustrated in space, just like trying to figure out how to move in space. I guess I forgot the episode where he lost his like rocket boosters. He doesn't have those anymore.
Yeah, I think they've kind of argued that like he lost them sometime between the prequel and the original trilogy, because there's moments in the original trilogy where you'd be like, bro, why are you using your rocket boosters?
Right. But I think it was in a comic. They showed it must have been in the Star Wars main run.
Ben, are you saying they either told a short story or a comic that filled in something, a plot point in a Star Wars? That doesn't sound like Star Wars.
Yeah. I just want to be in on that meeting where Sewell's like, can I just take care of that? And they're like, yeah, you totally can. He's like, great. It'll be a panel. It'll be great. He gets his like blaster shot off and then life continues and it's fine. Yeah.
Ben's lore gripes.
Dude, I have lore notes. I mean, I just want to be in the room where they're discussing these major lore points. I would be giddy. Right on. So I just think that's pretty cool. And then it evolves. And I mean,
QT shout out. Just really cool to get like a pink astromech on the scene. Like I just like the juxtaposition with R2. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah. Travis's headcanon is that the Jawas broke off the rocket booster so he wouldn't fly away.
Fair. Great.
Love it.
That works.
Yeah. That's cruel. It's like no restraining bolt, but we're gonna break it. We're gonna take your jets.
It's basically like the droid version of Misery. They like
it
hobbled R2.
Yeah.
Jawa, we're talking about a horror series.
I'm gonna take your knees. Just like Sopranos level of Jawa.
Now I want to ask is like, which is worse, the horror, the version of Misery from the movie or the book? But I won't talk about the difference of what happens to the character.
Right?
Yeah.
Not the podcast.
I mean, that essentially happens in Return of the Jedi, but it's okay.
I mean, I guess it's true, but there's no droid cybernetics to help him walk.
Wait, we didn't even talk about like the mouse droid Peter.
Yeah, I was a big Peter. I just read it as Peter. I thought, he was just the fact that like the stalwart of the,
I did some Baltic accent every time I read for Ajax. I don't know.
Maybe.
I love it.
It's like, Peter, my little friend Peter. I don't know.
All right. So D-Squad, which makes me think of like every clicky preppy kid in school, like
white hats.
I'd be like in front of them, like I'd walk by, like, look at the D-Squad over there.
It's not like Magic Mike 5 D-Squad, that doesn't.
Maybe. I have a negative connotation. I don't know why. I'm like, look at those D-Squads over there.
The guys in the Coed Naked Lacrosse t-shirts are the D-Squad.
Yeah,
it's a 90s reference for you.
It's like, so you're saying the beach
Yeah.
is just filled with D squads.
Yeah, just right on.
I say it as having went to high school with the Breakfast Club, but anyway,
Right
I'll
on.
move on. I was the nerd.
We've devolved into nonsensical territory where we're like silent after making 3 D squad jokes.
I know, it's just like, I don't know.
They
But
weren't even jokes,
so
just comments on society.
a big part of the comic is basically pulling together the squad, right? Like getting all the members together, which like, so let's count them off. It's R2, QT. I think we
don't
count
forget
as a member
Whack
of the
47 is
D-Squad.
the first one, and then he sort of absconds.
Yeah, he's God. Forlom, IG88, Triple Zero, and BT. Right, so we got 6 members who end up there at the end. 7 if you count loser. What's his name? No, Whack.
Yeah, Whack 47.
Is it Whack? Like, I need to.
Yeah,
Who's a dumb
series pit droid. Yeah, Whack 47.
Yeah.
We
also get
there's a chopper cameo.
There's a chopper cameo.
Yeah,
chopper shows up. We get they don't call them RX. I think they're GX droids, but RX is the from Star Tours.
Oh yeah,
is the Star Tours or as Ben would more know him as the DJ at Oga's Cantina.
Right.
Remember our Oga's Cantina where we just like sat in a booth and talked to people all night? That was nice.
Time.
That was randomly. Yeah.
That was good times.
Yeah, they're like the transport
droids. They also named
pilots.
The doorman droid at Jabba's palace. I don't have it. It's
I missed that.
BT XL9 dash. It's a long designation, and I'm not going to dig it up. Sorry, I forgot to write it down. But that like every droid gets sort of a name cameo in there. But it's a pretty like so. My standard issue cover for issue 4 was the main 5 of them, just like in a hero pose, like, and it was awesome. Yep, that's the one right there.
Oh, very cool.
With R2 in the front, it looks like it looks like a cool album cover.
I got Whack 47. I might actually bag and board this.
It's pretty great. Yours is good
Whack
too,
47
but not really. Well, I mean, maybe, who knows? I mean, you get your tattoo, whatever you like, but maybe not tattoo material. Travis brought up the fact that like it'd be really interesting because we've had now like D Squad originated in during the Clone Wars, right? Like we get that there's an arc of D Squad in the Clone Wars, which is where like Whack and R2D2 are part of it,
QT.
and QT, yep. And he'd be interesting. Like, can we flash forward and get one like post sequels that includes like now bringing like Dio
BB-88.
and maybe like BB.
Oh,
yeah. I guess you could.
BD90.
90, yes.
Maybe like
literally
maybe
my
he's,
favorite
like, come over.
scenes in that in The Last Jedi are like.
Do you think
90.
he made it? He didn't make it out, right? Because he was blown apart.
I'd never count out 90.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. He's a crafty one.
Why not?
That would be amazing if the last shot of that movie was just BB-90 like rolling out from behind a corner, sort of just like chortling.
How did Captain Phasma not come back for episode 9? I'm just saying. It's the rule of 3. Anyway, I'm just annoyed. Moving on.
Hey, yeah, that's a weird one, but not valid. Nice, but we could use some more Phasma, I suppose. But I guess that was Finn's adventure. Finn had to reconcile. I'm not getting into Last Jedi.
Sure, no. It's not a Last Phasma. It's not a Last Jedi problem I have. It's
the last Phasma.
Anyways, lots of funny banter. We get people translating for R2, which is always a cheap chuckle. When he's cursing at folks, that's always a good time. Any 000 like appearance is always hilarious. Everyone he talks to.
My favorite line is, I guess I'm a killer of moods as well.
That's because they kept doing the like standard romance scene with QT and like R2. It's like this long lost love connected, and like and it's just all the great comic timing, but it's 2 trash cans. So that's fun.
Yep.
I also love that it's sort of apparent that the Scourge is not afraid of R2, but sort of has targeting R2.
Yeah.
And R2 is sort of seen as a warrior by the Spark Eternal. It's very cool. Like it's just cool commentary from Sewell.
He is a
yeah,
warrior.
I mean,
about R2.
R2, he's a warrior. He's also special in terms of like he is the droid without like probably the longest we've seen without a mind wipe, right? Apart from,
Right.
I guess he gets his mind erased in episode 9, but there's the backup, so that goes back in, right? So he's back to himself. But like because again, I mean it's I mean I don't know if it was intentional or not, but we get at the end of episode 3, right? Like and then wipe the protocol droid's mind.
Well, you got to imagine he has all of C3PO's memories, and so he's basically he basically has seen how clutch R2 is, hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Like that's just a cool, frame of mind for the bad guy in terms of learning about
absolutely.
R2D2.
Super IG-88 heavy, which is great too. We don't get much IG-88, and we get a lot of him in this one, and that's really fun. Refers to himself as it's a weird like pronoun. He's like, it's not I, it's like my version or something. It's like insinuates there's more than just one IG-88.
Oh, this unit? No.
Yes, it's like
unit?
this
no,
unit.
This something.
Model number.
Yeah, I caught that too, and I didn't make a note of it. It is this something, like this model, this unit. It's something like that. But yeah, it's it's one of those things where I'm like, I love IG-11. IG-11's great. I do love now that he's a yes/no button. That's where his life is.
Yes.
In the world. Yes. The easiest job Taika Waititi has ever had.
So cool. Taika Waititi's voice work is just remarkable.
Also, the amount of times he shows up in What If Season 2 is kind of hilarious. Like,
What If Season 2 is so good.
It's very good. It's very, very good. Like that's the real work is going on in like What If land, which is weird to think of. But yeah, it's like there's so much there.
The end of What If Season 2 is pretty cool.
Yeah. But I feel like it's one of those things of just like I love IG-11. I need me some IG-88. Like where can we bring our classic bounty hunters back in the Mandoverse? Like I don't know where else they would belong.
I
bet you Outlaws will have some classic Easter eggs. Like maybe when you play Outlaws, you'll run into IG-88.
I think
that'd be cool.
That'd be great. Like
I think that they're actively trying to not connect that many times to like the original trilogy, just like in a story bit.
But like you have the bounty, I guess. But
yeah, I think maybe if you did it too much,
brought back
Boba, like cheap. It would just be like everyone's related.
But can I make another argument? They've already done it too much. It already feels cheap. So keep doing it.
It'll make the galaxy feel small. I think is probably what that's my guess, anyways.
I think you're
right.
Like
we haven't had a truly gritty Western approach. We've had a Western approach, a samurai approach, but not like, I don't know, maybe something that's just more about the smuggling aspect of it all, and sort of
like an Outlaws,
like a Better Call Saul or a Breaking Bad, or like something that could really go there in terms of like the spice trade or something that's just like really could be.
Is it something that's
dark,
not
weaving narrative that's like a smuggling sort of odyssey? Like bring back planets like Socorro.
That'd be a great Chad Stahelski.
Have droid fights fight IG-88, and it's like IG-88 is like mercilessly like just taking people out. Like it's like, they could really to do a character like that. It's such a scary, like that IG model could be done differently than IG-11, where IG-11 is actually frightening in the first episode of Mando, but once you get to meet the droid and you spend time with Taika Waititi voicing this droid, it's just like you love this droid. You're essentially,
it's not.
He's no longer sort of an assassin droid that you fear in any way. You just sort of love this droid. Whereas IG-88 almost calls for that gritty tone, like whatever Marvel's trying to do with Deadpool, whatever is happening here with these sort of Disney movies being able to explore darker, more gritty territory, or more violent territory for that matter. It's like, I think IG-88 lies there, basically.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Can I ask you, or kind of like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Grant, but like part of like, so here's the thing, like I still will always remember watching the premiere of Mandalorian, because it was literally on a flight that morning, so I downloaded it as you could and watched it on my flight like 4 times in a row and cried like every time. But like the second that Baby Yoda, as we called him back then's finger went out and we saw it was Baby Yoda, I'm like, oh, this is a very different series than I thought it was going to be, because now this is epic and mythic, right? Because it's not just a standalone whatever. It is now tied into the larger galaxy because you can't have a Yoda baby and it to be nothing, right? So
Yeah.
part of what I'm wondering is, do we need a Star Wars that's not tied into the fate of the galaxy, right?
Right.
Which like could give you more storytelling. Which I'm like, again, not to like keep pounding on how much I think Solo is an underrated masterpiece. But like that's part of why I love Solo is because like it is a very contained story and there are elements that connect to larger stories, but it is not the fate of the galaxy does not rest on what happens in Solo. It's a heist movie. And I feel like we need more of that and like something like an Underwar series.
Right. I think I said a very long version of sort of I would love this sort of thing from Star Wars, but I think what you're saying is actually correct, which is that like I just feel like we need stories that are contained to themselves and not dealing with the sort of wider mythos. It's like I don't really need all these connective tissue, whereas I know that seems to be a goal in most Star Wars stories, but it's like it really can be its own thing. And then when you want to bring in a character like IG-88 or you want to bring in like 000 or BT-1, those characters are like the really dark characters that I'm like, I don't know if they would work in things where you're not allowing them to sort of be what we know them as.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. No, I think it's a good point. And maybe that's why Andor works so well is because again, it's another one where like it is big storytelling, but like it is just focused on his growth and the way he becomes a kind of a minor cog in the rebellion, who then ends up having an oversized role.
It does also check the boxes of hero's journey too, which is like why I think Andor is just such a awesome sort of like
good point.
Navigation point for Star Wars. It's such a good thing to look at as a sort of like model for what Star Wars, modern Star Wars can be. It can still be earnest and it can still check all the boxes of hero's journey and coming of age and a really dramatic arc for a character to learn how to operate in the galaxy. But I feel like it's also extremely dark and gritty and evocative of all these interesting genres and tones and moods that I feel like are not exactly like these mirrored moments or homages or tributes or things that we've seen in other things, but just done in Andor. So it's got this Andor aesthetic. Andor just feels wholly like a birth of the galaxy and the 100%. Politics of the galaxy and the what's happening in a state where there's this authoritarian regime that's just oppressing all people, and sort of like it's just so good, like in terms of like just exploring the basic elements of Star Wars without trying to like do callbacks and connect to anything, and it's not trying to force.
No, apart from like
connections
Mon Mothma,
anywhere,
and that
as
feels,
sort of like
yeah. But that feels like organic.
Yeah, aside from Mon Mothma, but I feel like Mon Mothma is like.
But it's also a character we have 5 minutes of in the movie.
Yeah,
I don't think she's a character that people like needed more story for, or like were like. I don't think fans were like, clamoring for more story for Mon Mothma, but like. She just makes sense in this world and in this sphere.
Yeah, it's not a casual cameo. She is a deep, background character, and it's like it meaningfully moves the story forward. Yeah, it's a minor.
Who's going through her own hero's journey, right? And that's the thing is, it's like I feel like, and this ready for like wide sweeping generalization in 3, 2, 1. I feel like current storytelling is obsessed with the fact that a hero's journey means the hero must be world-alteringly important. Right. And to me, that is not what a hero's journey has to be. It can be, but a hero's journey is just someone who's going to challenge something and you just go through it. You can tell a hero's journey in a courtroom drama. You can tell a hero's journey in a family drama. You can tell a hero's journey in any type of storytelling who has a victory, who has to go through these stages.
There just needs to be the ordinary homestead on Ferrix, which is in Andor, and then there needs to be the broader galaxy and
who fits in. It fits in.
The other world, the supernatural world, and sort of the crossing and the growth within, and then the return, and like it does all of that. It just does all of that, and it actually does it in a very explicit ways at times when you're not even thinking about it because the characters are so rich, and you're just I don't know. It's a really masterful piece of
that was a Gilroy masterpiece, and he's made so much amazing stuff, and I can't believe he just like dropped a masterpiece on, and like to the extent where like I don't know we're gonna see anything as good as that anytime soon. I hope we do.
I'm so worried about season 2. But
I think I bet season 2 is going to be fantastic.
Really?
But I'm
really worried about how the writer's strike affected it. I'm hoping they're going to go back and do any reshoots that he demands.
I listened to interviews with him, and he was casual about it. Like leading up to it, he was like, yeah, it's going to do some things. He's like, but they were in good shape. He didn't seem like he was sweating it. They seem super prepared. I think season 2 is just going to be an extension of season 1. It's going to be fantastic and a blast.
Yeah.
But
do you want to totally change, not topics, because right on topic what Travis just said. He dropped Jar Jar Binks.
What, his hero's journey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's why. Like he just loves George, changed what the hero's journey could be. Instead of just the ordinary becoming extraordinary, it's the abnormal becoming accepted, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's one of those things, and Travis, I'll agree, it's like I've had my own hero's journey when it comes to my acceptance of Jar Jar Binks. Of like
we're all very proud of you, Adam.
That's incredible.
I know, I'm back around. Not so much on Dio.
I accepted at the beginning because I was the perfect age.
You were the right age.
Over time,
I was the wrong age. I was the wrong age and the wrong mentality to accept Jar Jar Binks. But I've become older and wiser and understand that he's wonderful.
I was like, of course, there's the cartoonish sidekick. Like, I was like, of course.
I love myself some Jar Jar.
And I look forward to when I can watch it through my child's eyes in a few years. So, yeah.
But as I've gotten older and I look at the films, I go, these films are over-edited. We're cutting way too much. I can't even focus on what's happening at times. And then Jar Jar Binks is just... I don't know. Like he doesn't really. He then is like almost the cause for like Palpatine's rise. Like I was like, this is just the way that character was written, just the tragic nature, and then him just being clumsy and like just it felt like maybe we could have done something that was a little bit more poignant, and he could have had a little bit more story with the Gungans that like maybe could have been.
There needs to be
added
something. Like I've argued that I've always argued that in front of Pixar movies are the Pixar shorts, right? Like the animated shorts. Now, I can get in the whole reason they do that. That's mostly them testing out new technology for the next movie coming up. It's how they figure out how they can do stuff, yada yada yada. But I love the idea of short films in front of it, like Wes Anderson did it in front of the Darjeeling Limited, right? Like I want more of that. Yeah. I mean, again,
Wes Anderson just put out 4 movies, short films.
Yeah. There's an old movie house I'm trying to figure out down the street. I'm trying to figure out how to get a loan to revamp.
Oh, right.
We'll see how that goes. Because I just want to like get myself in debt forever and run a movie house. But my point is, like, I want to live in the era. My point is, I feel like Star Wars movies when they come out should have a short in front of it, a 10-minute live action short. And I'm like, give us it's Disney Plus now, so it's gonna happen. But like, give us, like, that's the thing is like, experiment with the format at Disney Plus. We don't need limited series all the time. Give us short movies. Like, do the same thing. Give us a 20-minute Jar Jar movie that just kind of like puts a bow on this character. Like, just give justice for Jar Jar.
Unfortunately, the books did him dirty, and I hope there could be something beyond that. But
you can ignore it, or you can retcon it. You can figure out a way. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I thought Jar Jar was gonna actually like become the boss Ness, basically, of like the next leader of the Gungans or something. Because I thought he did really well.
He was the next leader of Naboo.
I don't know. I didn't get. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the voice of he's essentially like a congressperson for the entire nation.
Yeah,
I mean, they gave him a super, super promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, love the prequels. I mean, I just worry about the direction of Jar Jar and what really the thought was there, other than Anakin and Obi-Wan, sort of these characters that are learners, or essentially, I guess Obi-Wan's at the end of that journey, but I guess they're like, oh, this character is the sort of clumsy outsider of his people, and because he, mainly because he just gets into trouble constantly, and like don't act on your focus determines your reality. Yeah. Sort of like don't sort of get preoccupied with like the objects around you, or stumbling into a food stand and eating something. Like don't just fall into your innate needs and things like that. And sort of like, I don't know if that was the intention of the character, but I was like, I almost just think that that was a little too one-dimensional for a character in a Star Wars story, especially a character that's part of like the ensemble. Like the ensemble almost needs, like, each character needs to be a little bit more rounded, so like, they can add some dramatic heft to the story, I think, because like C-3PO kind of like blurs that line of like he's always comedic essential. Like he's almost like never really, but like,
No,
again,
it's
that's
true.
why I think the Rise of Skywalker moment where it is sentimental actually works, because you're just like, oh my god, he has been with the ensemble for so long. There is another side to him. I just almost wish that we had more Jar Jar stuff like that, where it's like,
I agree.
it wasn't
Yeah,
just
he's
treated
pretty
like,
one-dimensional.
It's-
But it's like, hey, he means well.
It's he
He's just a
does,
little
but it's
clumsy.
also so
We
hard
know
because
people like that.
it's one of those. No, yeah, no. So it's so hard.
clumsy as a character.
I may have literally
personality.
walked into my office trying not to spill my drink. Trying not to spill my drink, I dropped my seltzer, which then made me spill my drink. It almost woke my child up. So no,
Yeah,
I
pretty
don't
clumsy.
I do not understand or relate to Jar Jar at all.
He means well, though. That's a thing.
No, I mean,
And
I may not have been in
Go over.
crowded rooms and joked around. It'd be funny if I dropped this plate and then 5 minutes later dropped the plate and made everyone look at me. That's never happened to me on 3 separate occasions. So my point about I'm not even joking. The part about Jar Jar is just also you take the point where that he's like, so George, I feel like he took the criticism of Jar Jar the harshest of all the criticism of that, and I feel like that's the one thing you could see him reacting to, right, when you watch these things. So I'd be really interesting to see, and I don't think he had it all 3 written out, but I think it'd be interesting to see, to go back in time to be like right after, before, like he's finished episode 1, before it comes out, before reaction, to be like, George, what's his story?
Yeah.
Like, to give us this. Like, I'd just be so fascinated to see what his journey was. And I think it might have been what it was, but like, you get to the point of like episode 3, he has like 2 lines in the whole film. Like, he's just there in the background, literally being told to stop talking. He's like, okay.
I mean, ultimately, the cool thing I like about his character is, like, very much like Han Solo, he is an ultimate sort of just wielded character by the Force. Is just like pushed through to push all the buttons that the Force needs to have pushed. I mean, you could even say, giving control to Palpatine was like part of the Force, like at work there. Like everything he does, he stumbles through life as being pushed along by the Force into revolutionary acts, and that's kind of cool. It's my positive Jar Jar spin there.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah.
No, I think Jar Jar. My positive spin for Jar Jar is that like he is like a Kurosawa character.
Very much.
Yes,
He is like
very,
a character
very
straight out
much.
of Japanese cinema. That's sort of like ranting, raving, sort of character, sort of like with the ensemble, walking the trail. I feel like that is such a sort of trope, not a trope, but I guess it's just a sort of a motif you see over and over again. Is sort of the outsider or the fool character sort of like shouting while the other characters are just trying to be more poised and figure out a path forward. Yeah.
So 2 things. 1, Travis helpfully corrected me on what his lines are in episode 3, which is farts and a squeeze me. However, what I'll say, oh George, what I'll say is he also, since we're talking about positive Jar Jar, he mentioned before, like the lesson he took was that, and I'll just read this, is that the one open-minded person to see the potential in the one everyone gave up on, and how those are the ones who will stick by you. Right, like I think it's really important, and as those of us who have taught, that's the word.
Teached well.
I'm a taughter.
Let me teach you
so
something big. Talking like DJ over there.
Late. I'm sick.
Let me learn you something.
I've had a double. It's Friday. It's been a long week.
Yeah.
It's been a short, long week. Anyway, but I was gonna say is like I can relate to that idea of like taking a flyer on a student who just knows like has had it rough and everyone's given up on him. I had one of those who had like a quote unquote come to Jesus moment without saying that to them at the end of the semester who made it, and I have him next semester and I feel like I'm gonna regret it. But we're gonna
Nice.
He's in my mind.
happy
In my
ending.
mind, it's like, he's my Jar Jar. I'm Qui-Gon and he's Jar Jar.
Right on. Well, that's Jar Jar talk, I think. Do we anything else here you want to say about D Squad before we sign it off here?
Yeah, more D Squad in the future.
Hunger
There is going to be
Station.
more D Squad in the future.
Yeah.
No, that's what my hope
Yeah.
is. No comment, no connection on that. But yes,
Yeah.
please more. You know me. I love
I'm
my
excited
droids.
to read the other runs that sort of run parallel to these stories. That will be exciting. Are we going to do that next week, or did you have something else in mind? To be determined.
I got nothing. I
To
mean,
be-
we can do it. But
yeah, to
we'll,
be-
we'll,
I wouldn't hate
yeah.
it. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
We've been really
TBD
drilling
squad.
down on certain
That might be.
sectors of the galaxy.
if-
Here we did like High Republic. Now we could just do droids
Yep.
and like knock it
Yeah,
out.
we don't. I mean, the only content we currently have are all
Yeah.
comics, which we don't have a ton. We have there was the Return of the Jedi one shots that came out, so we have those, the anniversary, and then we have these. If we wanted to stay current, which is like maybe we do, we'll talk off air about how we want to handle comics
right,
going
yeah, 'cause
forward.
we've jumped ahead a bit.
So either we do comics or we do something completely
Yeah.
different
Okay.
next week because we're like caught up with
There's
content.
there's
It's
a lot
awesome.
of other fun things we can talk about and do some thought experiments and play around with. I always love those episodes, but I just want to make sure we're taking care of all the content when we can, because
are.
it's nice to
Yeah.
be caught up. I felt like we were in the Star Wars weeds for like 8 months. But yeah, awesome. Well, we'll do it again next week,
Yep.
guys. Great job. Good talking to you, Travis. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it.
Yep.
And we will talk to you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.